All right, families. Hey, I just wanted to send out a final message to wrap up the 2020-21 Nebraska ODP cycle. It was a very interesting year, but we made it. We made it through between the late start of my position within Nebraska State Soccer in August after we missed that original tryout window that we usually have, to trying to cram everything into November. Dodging all the weather and stuff until we hit February, was probably one of the most incredible polar vortexes that ever came through the U.S. and definitely probably ever hit Memphis. Until all the way trying to put together teams to compete in Indiana sub-regional and just trying to have a presence there. So first and foremost, just want to say how much I appreciate the kids, all the time and energy and effort that they put into this cycle, regardless if it was at selection camp, as a state pool selection, state team invitation, and as our players move on to their region ID camp invitations for some of those. The time and energy that they put into this, how seriously they took it, how much they wanted to grow from the experience. It was great for me to just see them at every camp and every competition and game, see them wanting to compete, seeing them wanting to be better, to represent Nebraska, their families, their clubs well. It was very exciting for me, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. And I know that the coaches on our staff this year really enjoyed it as well. So thank you so much to the players. Parents, thank you so much for making that happen for your players. I understand all the driving and the time and the money and the energy that it takes to get them there, especially then being asked not to be able to go into the facility to watch some of those and things like that. I appreciate you very much. Appreciate you for making that happen for them and helping give them this unique experience. Representative soccer is an extremely unique experience. It's not something that you get to see or experience in most settings, right? So asking different representatives from each club, each city, each part of the state to come together and put together these Nebraska State teams. And now as some of our players are being asked to move on to the next stage and represent our state amongst the 14 states that make up the Midwest region. And it's really neat to see that. So thank you so much, players. Thank you so much, parents, and everyone else who helped make this possible for those kids to have that experience this year. Just wanted to just kind of recap the way that we started this, right? The mission and the purpose of U.S. Youth Soccer's ODP program, right? Our motto is to train, to develop, and play to win, right? And so we hopefully provided opportunities for these players to be in unique environments that are complementary to what they're experiencing in school and in club soccer environments. This is obviously different than those two things. And obviously it's not a time-based thing. I understand the biggest complaint we always get with ODP is, man, I wish we could get more time, wish we could get more games. Absolutely, right? I'm sure the national teams feel the same way when they go to compete in competitions. Our U.S. men's national team just finishing up the All Nations Cup and our women getting ready for the Olympics this summer. Always wish we could have more time to put together quality teams, but really the whole point of this experience is to bring players into a unique environment, give them an opportunity with different coaching, different players in that short span of time to complement what they're getting in their home environments, right? So training to develop and playing to win. And I think that's what our teams did in Indiana, just getting back from Indiana this past weekend. Our teams went there to compete. Like I told the parents, we obviously don't like to lose. Me personally, I hate losing more than I enjoy winning. I'm a competitive person. That's why I was a college soccer coach for 18 years. That's why I'm involved in sports, right? But ultimately, we want these experiences to be opportunities for the players. And we always want to play to compete and to win, but also reflecting on those opportunities to learn from it and also using that to develop, right? So U.S. Youth Soccer's philosophy is to identify players at the highest caliber on a continuing and consistent basis. This is 1 year, right? The process is going to start over again. We'll talk about that here in a second, but it's one step, one phase, 1 year, right? And so it's a continuing and consistent basis, constantly growing, constantly improving, constantly being tested. And that's the whole point. And hopefully that will lead to increased success of our U.S. national teams and on the international arena, right? The purpose of our program is to identify and provide opportunities for high potential players, facilitate their development, expose them to that next level, regardless of what their chosen pathway is, right? So I think we did that this year. I think we were able to do that. Why do I believe in ODP? Why did I take this job to build this program and to continue this program and build off the success of what previous directors for Nebraska ODP have done in the past? It's because of this, right? I think we had a great staff this year. I think our staff, man, and just seeing our staff step up and jump in and help facilitate and make sure that our teams were covered in Indiana this past week was fantastic. What a great attitude by our staff in Indiana. What a great attitude by our staff helping each other out when we had weather problems and issues this past year, or coaches getting knocked out because of COVID and things like that at training camps and having to cover each other's sessions and all that. It was a great staff to work with this year. And I think hopefully you saw that too. The heart of these coaches is in the right place, whether they were just, an apprentice, or whether they were an assistant, or whether they're the head coach of one of our state teams. And fortunately, some of our coaches have been invited to be a part of the region staff as well. Regardless of which stage of the development process as a coach they're at, all of them had a great heart, had a great motivation to be a part of this program. And hopefully you recognize that. Definitely, we did not get as much of the education pieces as we would have liked, but hopefully in the trainings, hopefully in the matches. I definitely heard some great comments from some of the players and the parents that appreciated the Zoom sessions with their coaches and that kind of stuff this last year. Hopefully we can get more of those going as we were able to get more in-person sessions and stuff like that at the next year's training camps. But I definitely think if you walked away from the games, from the training sessions, and just identified a couple things that you learned and things that you can improve on, I definitely think it was a valuable experience. Obviously, the environment, I've talked about this over and over again. The environment is very unique. It's a great opportunity. So hopefully the players benefited from that. Hopefully the players took something away from that. The competition, there's a great competition in Indiana this past weekend. I really enjoyed seeing our teams compete and do the best to their ability. And some teams had immense success. Some teams had moments that they played really, really well. And I think every team had some great moments, had some really fun games. And so definitely, I think it was a great opportunity to be competitive. The exposure, obviously the college coaches that are on our state staff, but also the college coaches that were in Kansas City and also in Indiana, and also the MLS coaches that were at Kansas City and Indiana. It was fantastic to see those coaches there, to see our players get exposure to those things, to those coaches, to those levels. Had college coaches walking up and talking to me at the Kansas City event in December, asking about certain players on our rosters and things like that. What a great thing. And even getting emails from coaches. Just got emails from some coaches in Indiana that were in Indiana this past weekend, asking about information about our players. So definitely a great opportunity for exposure. And then again, the opportunity to just reflect, learn about yourself as a player, and learn also hopefully about yourself as an individual, as a person. Right? Hopefully these young athletes aren't just looking at this as a soccer opportunity, but obviously as an opportunity to grow and to learn to be a better person out of this. And so I challenge you, sit down, think through the whole process. What were things that you learned? Yes, on the field and in soccer, but also off the field, right? Did you have a setback because you weren't able to go to a training session or weren't able to go to an event because of conflicts or because of health or something like that? I know several of our players in the cycle this year came up with injuries at the last minute and weren't able to participate in the events that they wanted to participate in. Man, it obviously is mentally, emotionally devastating. How do you bounce back from that? How do you grow from that? How do you come back from that stronger as a person, but also as a individual on the field, right? And so hopefully testing yourself, putting yourself in this environment, being evaluated, all those things hopefully led to a very unique and different type of experience. And it's not, again, not better than club soccer. It's not better than high school or school soccer. It's complementary, right? And hopefully it's part of the process to becoming the best version of yourself, both on the field and off the field. So just as a reminder, this is kind of where we're at right now. So we've just completed the Nebraska ODP state cycle. We formed our pools after the selection camp. Our teams went and competed in Kansas City and in Indiana, and now players are being identified. So just spoke with U.S. Youth National Office. A list of about 42 players were identified between Kansas City and Indiana. and have been sent invitations or are being sent invitations to participate in the Midwest 2021 ODP identification camp. From that camp, players are put together to compete and represent our 14-state Midwest region against the other 3 regions at the interregional competition in Florida this upcoming fall. From those competitions, from those teams, those regional teams, players are invited to the national training centers, right? And national training camp. And at that national training camp, obviously U.S. Soccer and U.S. Youth Soccer will work together to identify players that can participate in U.S. Soccer's youth national team system. And so it's every step's a process. Almost every step is going to be our last step, right? And so it's unfortunate that the process has to end eventually for players. And I understand that it's a tough thing to do, but also understanding that every stage of this process is an opportunity to grow and to learn. And it's hopefully something that challenges you, again, not just to be a better version of yourself as a soccer player, but also as a person. So starting to look forward, 2021, 22, okay? So this is a short, or this is a brief thought process as far as what we're gonna be doing this next year. The same kind of format, 3 phases, right? Phase 1, selection camp, those tryouts to make the state pool, and phase 2 is the state pool, the team formation phase, putting these teams together. That's gonna be happening in November, December. So this last year, you'll remember selection camp was in November. That's going to be happening. Selection camp is going to be happening in July, and then we're also going to have alternative dates throughout the fall. Those are going to be announced here soon, but the first selection camp is July 20th to the 22nd. If you would like your players to participate in the Nebraska ODP cycle again this next year, we'd love to have you. Please register. If the dates for the 20th to the 22nd don't line up with summer vacation plans, stuff like that, don't worry about it. Just register, and then that fee will go towards the alternative dates as well. But that's just letting us know that you would like to participate in the process again this next year. A lot of our staff is coming back. Most of our staff is going to be working with the same age groups for a second year, help give a little bit of continuity, and then they'll go back and they'll start over with a new age group for the next 2 years, right? We are expanding our staff this year. We're adding new coaches. And so we want to make sure that the staff is a good staff that's giving you great opportunities to develop and hopefully different coaching methods as well than maybe what you're used to stretch you as a player. So that team formation phase, we're going to bring in a larger pool. And this time, because we're able to start it a little bit sooner, team formation, the state team pools will be training in November when we had tryouts last year, and competing, the entire pool will be competing in Kansas City this time. So taking the entire pool, probably in a couple or 3 teams down to Kansas City to compete against Missouri and Kansas and Iowa, and help give us an idea of where we're at as a state pool and start selecting those players that will represent the state of Nebraska in their age groups on the state teams. State teams then will be announced going into the January training camps. We'll bring in a pool of about 20 to 22 players, that state team roster. So a roster of 18 plus a few alternates in case of things happening like they did this year. And then hopefully those state teams will compete and represent Nebraska at the sub-regional event in Memphis. I do want to go back to Memphis. I like the Memphis event. I love how we have the pool games at the Memphis event. The Memphis event also draws a lot of really great states from outside of our region that maybe we don't get to see in Kansas City or that you're going to see at the region ID camp. So I like the Memphis event because it does draw from the Southeast region as well as from our Midwest region. So it's a little bit of a crossover, and I like that. So we are going to push to try and still participate in Memphis, weather permitting, right? But everything leading up to that sub-regional event in Memphis, where we can go have our players identified by region staff and given an opportunity to be selected for the region ID camp, which is still technically slated for the month of July. Theoretically, back in Saginaw, Michigan, if we're allowed to have the players stay in dorms and eat in cafeterias, again, all depending on vaccines and COVID and stuff like that. The alternative, obviously, like this year, where the players staying with their parents and eating with their parents in hotel rooms. It's not as fun of a camp environment, but still the same purpose of that process, right? So again, that's some of the what we're going to be doing, a little bit of the changes, right? Expanding that pool of players for the state pools, training them a little bit and then taking the entire pool to Kansas City is going to be a massive change in what we're going to be doing this next year. Also, some other things, hopefully better communication from me that will be a little bit further out. We'll have done this once already before in this format. So hopefully the communication will be a little bit better. People will have a little bit more of an idea of what's coming up next. So hopefully that's a little bit smoother, knowing what's next, knowing the process, that kind of stuff. Also hope to have a few more webinars or videos like this to communicate a little bit better as well. So want to improve the communication from myself, from our coaches. We're also going to be using a new registration system that hopefully will allow our coaches to communicate directly with their age groups a little bit better, which I know was going through me constantly this year just because of what the format or the software that we're using. That's another thing. We're changing up the software. So hopefully we don't have issues with credit cards and things like that, like we did last year when the Memphis event got canceled. So hopefully a lot of those things will be cleaned up a little bit. The communication should be a little bit better. You're going to have more time with coaches. It's really interesting. The state directors, we had started a thread going into Indiana, and I wanted to share with you a little bit of some of the things that we heard in this thread because I thought it was very interesting. I'm always very cognizant of, kind of what our fees are, trying to keep it as minimal as possible. Want to make sure that we're doing a good job, providing a great opportunity for our players. And we do definitely have to take care of our coaches, cover the cost of the facilities, but also want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that the most players can participate as possible. And so one thing I did want to share with you, we had a thread kind of going through of what were some of the other states charging for ODP and what was included in that. So one state's charging $975 for the entire ODP cycle, so from tryouts to the sub-regional event. In that cycle, a couple opportunities to play friendlies. The sub-regional was the final event for them. They did not play like a friendlies like we did, and they got 8 training sessions after the tryouts before they went to the sub-regional for $975. Another state is charging $575, including 12 training sessions from tryouts to going to a sub-regional, and they went to just the one sub-regional event and then hosted some friendlies in their state. Another state is charging $800. And again, for about 8 training sessions from tryouts to sub-regionals, playing in a friendlies event and playing in sub-regionals. So, and our total this year, or our total for this upcoming cycle is going to be about $380. You put on top of that the fees for the uniforms and the gear. That's going to be about $480 from selection camp all the way to participating in the sub-regionals is the anticipated budget. So I'm really happy that we were able to come in under a majority of the states in our region. I honestly didn't see a single state that came in with a price point less than ours. And I think what we're offering our players is excellent. I mean, at selection camp, getting 6 sessions alone at selection camp between the state pool training that we're going to be having in November and the state team camps in January, there's going to be over another 6 training sessions in those 2 events. So you got 12 training sessions, 12 sessions with coaches alone between tryouts to team training. And then you're going to have 2 events to play games between the KC friendlies and the sub-regional. And we're expanding the KC friendlies by taking multiple teams in each age group, if the numbers allow it in the tryout process this year. And so expanding that opportunity for more players to participate in state pool and in the KC friendlies so that more players have games, I think is going to be a great opportunity for our kids. So again, I know we have areas that we can definitely improve on. I definitely have things that I can improve on as a state director of coaching. And definitely there are things that we want to improve and make better for our players. But I think just hearing what some of the other states are doing and what it's costing the families to participate in those things, I'm actually really happy with what we got accomplished this year, and I'm happy about where we're going as a state. So again, also something on the horizon, probably not in 21, 22, just because of COVID still and vaccines and things like that. But on the horizon, started communicating with some people about international opportunities for our state ODP teams. So definitely want to keep you updated about that as they start being put together. But want to provide our players unique experiences and competing against competition outside of not even just our state, but outside of our country. And seeing how we do in those environments, I think could be a great opportunity for our players. So that's on the horizon. Definitely want to be looking forward to that. So what do you do now, right? So maybe you're one of the players that were able to go to Kansas City with us. Maybe you're one of the players that was in the state pool and didn't get an invitation to travel to either Kansas City or Indiana. Maybe you're one of the players that was able to travel to Indiana with us. Regardless of what stage you were at, and maybe you're one of the fortunate players that got invited to the Midwest Region ID camp, but regardless what stage you go to or what stage you kind of phase out in, regardless of that, there's opportunities to improve and to grow and learn about yourself as a player and a person from each of those phases. And so think about these 6 qualities of a player. This is what U.S. Soccer is using to identify and evaluate players. And we're doing the same thing in Nebraska ODP, using the same key qualities in evaluating our players. And so think about for yourself, reflect on these things yourself. What did you learn about yourself in these 6 areas? What could you improve on this next year, regardless if you participate in ODP again or not? How can you improve as a player and as a person, and then specifically as a player in these 6 areas, right? The game understanding, taking initiative, being focused during the entire game, optimal technical and optimal physical ability, and then taking responsibility and being accountable for yourself on and off the field. Where are you at in these things? What things could you improve on? Maybe pick 2 of these that you want to improve on and set up an action plan to improve in those areas. So again, finally, thank you so much for everybody's effort and energy and time that you invested in this process this year. I appreciate both players and parents and all the people that helped make that opportunity possible for your players. It's awesome to see Nebraska coming together, putting their best foot forward on the fields in each of these age groups. Best of luck the rest of this summer. I hope to see all of our players coming back for this next cycle. I'm excited about some of the changes that we're going to be making. I'm excited to see us continue to grow this program. Ultimately, we need your participation to continue to grow the program. That's the biggest thing we haven't had. I'm not saying it's the fault of previous directors, and it's definitely not something special with me, but hopefully we can have some consistency moving forward, grow the program so they really are grabbing the best talent in the state of Nebraska to represent our state. We're looked down upon, right, as a state that's all the way on the west. So hopefully hopefully this will be a great opportunity for you. Hopefully this will be something that you want to continue to participate in. Thank you so much.